A man who was sexually abused as a child by a Sussex vicar has criticised the Church of England for suggesting that there was no cover-up or collusion by clergy. Gary Johnson says comments made by the Bishop of Horsham last week are outmoded, distasteful and only serve to traumatise victims.
The Right Reverend Mark Sowerby has apologised to him unreservedly, but claims that he hasn't yet been provided with evidence proving a cover-up. Our special correspondent Colin Campbell has the details.
He's the bishop responsible for safeguarding in churches in Sussex. Interviewed about sex abuse by C of E clergy, a week ago he made these comments on our programme.
I don't think the church did know what was going on. I don't believe there has been a cover-up, nor collusion.
Now living in the US, Gary Johnson listened to the interview. He was sexually abused when he was a young choir boy in Eastbourne. Reverend Roy Cotton targeted him and many others.
Quite honestly, it left me feeling very upset initially, and it quite quickly transitioned to a form of anger. But for him to suggest that there was no evidence of such is kind of preposterous.
The Bishop of Horsham was interviewed after the jailing of Vickery House, the 11th man connected with the Church of England in Sussex to be proven of sexual abuse, amongst them Bishop Peter Ball and Bishop George Bell. In an email, the Bishop of Horsham has issued an unreserved apology to Gary Johnson, saying he's mortified to have caused further distress. He says no one shared anything with him which could demonstrate cover-up or collusion, adding that if evidence is produced, he'd like to be the first to acknowledge it.
His assertion that he has to have evidence before he believes in something is kind of ridiculous when set in the context of the fact that he pretty much heads up an institution that relies purely upon faith.
2 years ago, the Bishop of Chichester, who has overall responsibility for the diocese, told Gary Johnson there had been deception and cover-up. In what appears to be a damage limitation exercise, Martin Warner today suggested to me that the Bishop of Horsham may have been referring specifically to the case of Vickery House, despite being asked a generic question.
I think it would be quite wrong for me to put words into his mouth and speak on his behalf. I don't have the mandate for doing that, other than knowing how deeply sorry he was for the offence and hurt and confusion that answer has given.
But to be clear, you do believe there was cover-up and collusion?
I do believe that is the case.
Off sick from work, the Bishop of Horsham was unavailable for interview today. Martin Warner says it will be the job of the Archbishop of Canterbury's independent review to establish exactly what went on. Colin Campbell, BBC South East Today, Chichester.